I'd like to take a moment to do another sidebar here, this time on heuristics. We talk a lot about heuristics in episode 2, but it's worth taking a closer look at the topic. So as we've said, a heuristic is a mental shortcut that our brains use to resolve simple problems and save valuable energy. In other words, a rule of thumb. They're generally good and useful, but they can make us jump to conclusions and lead us to biased thinking and make us vulnerable to disinformation. Political scientist Herbert A. Simon introduced the concept of heuristics in the 1950s. He was interested in how people and organizations make decisions and discovered that the process isn't as rational as some people believe it to be. Simon was awarded the Nobel Prize in Economics for his research. Further work was conducted in the 1970s by psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky, who linked heuristics to cognitive biases. Their work is summarized in Kahneman's best-selling book, Thinking Fast and Slow. Kahneman was also awarded the Nobel Prize in Economics for his and Tversky's research. Tversky unfortunately passed away before he could share that honor. Psychologists have identified dozens of heuristics, and this video is too short for me to get into all of them, but here are a few that you should be aware of when you're perusing the internet. The availability heuristic. The availability heuristic means that whatever you're exposed to most often is what you're most likely going to think is good and true. If everyone around you thinks tacos are the best, then you are more likely to think tacos are the best, and you might be surprised when you meet someone who doesn't like tacos. The availability heuristic is usually harmless, but it can become dangerous depending on your media environment. If you're exposed to a lot of news stories about kidnapping, then you might start thinking kidnapping is a bigger problem than it actually is. If you're exposed to a lot of social media posts about how those people always behave a certain way, then you're probably going to form an incorrect opinion about those people. So if you ever find yourself making a sweeping judgment about an entire segment of the population, you're probably getting tripped up by the availability heuristic. The affect heuristic. The affect heuristic has been described as going with your gut, or relying on your emotional reactions when you make a decision. It's also usually harmless and often helpful. If you're in a situation that feels kind of sketchy, it's probably a good idea to get out of there. But it can also get you in trouble. Most people don't really have any control over their reaction to certain words and stimuli. If I say the words lung cancer to you, you're probably going to have at least a fleeting negative reaction. With this in mind, propagandists and disinformers will front-load their claims with emotionally charged terms in order to get your affect heuristic to influence your reactions. So, as we've said before on the channel, if you're reading something on the internet and you find yourself having a powerful emotional reaction, stop, take a breath, because someone is probably trying to manipulate you. Finally, the fluency heuristic. Our brains are more comfortable with ideas and concepts that they encounter frequently. They are top of mind, so to speak. Psychologists describe this as fluency, and we are more likely to believe a statement with which we are fluent. This is the basis of a lot of advertising. A catchy slogan repeated often enough will make your mind more fluent with the product being sold, increasing the likelihood that you'll buy it. Think of how many ad slogans you can just rattle off without thinking. You probably remember some from your childhood. You were exposed to them so often that you're still fluent with them years later.
2 all beef patties, special sauce, let's... Oh, wait a minute.
When it absolutely, positively has to be there overnight.
They're great.
Just do it.
However, it's also the basis of a lot of modern propaganda and disinformation. Joseph Goebbels, the Nazi propaganda minister, is alleged to have said, "If you tell a lie big enough and repeat it often enough, eventually the people will come to believe it." Ironically enough, he probably never actually said that. But there is no denying that the big lie technique designed to exploit the fluency heuristic was an essential Nazi propaganda tactic. It continues to be a favorite propaganda tool today and has been shown to increase the likelihood of believing fake news. So, as with the other heuristics, the best way to avoid letting the fluency heuristic lead you astray is to slow down and remind yourself that something isn't necessarily true just because it went viral. Remember, heuristics are not inherently bad, but relying solely on heuristics will eventually cause problems for you. Neuroscientist Pascal Wallisch equates relying on heuristics with blindly accepting whatever autocorrect suggests for you. And we all know how well that usually goes. As always, Links are available in the description if you'd like to learn more. Hi, it's Dan again. If you like what you see here on the channel, please like, share, and subscribe. You know how that works. Reptiles of the Mind is pretty much a one-man operation, and you're looking at him. So if you think the show has any value, especially in these crazy times, please consider leaving a thank you gift here, or think about sponsoring the show on Patreon. Patreon sponsorship gets you ad-free videos that won't get spiked by the algorithm, bonus content as soon as I create some, and down the road, I'll be offering merch. A link is in the description below, and thank you.